If you're somebody who's got a decent sized practice and you've been approached by private equity, or maybe you haven't, and you haven't decided to join, I'd love you to DM me and tell me why. There may be an amazing reason, but the money isn't, because the money, you always come out ahead. Be clear, I'm not telling you to join an OSO or DSO. I'm telling you to understand the reasons why you're not doing it. That's the key. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of your 5-Minute Friday. I'm your host, Dr. Glenn Krieger, and I want to ask you a very important question today. What is the purpose of your practice? I mean that, honestly. What is the purpose of your practice? There's a whole bunch of reasons why you could have a practice. Now, I'm not asking for your core values, okay? We've had lots of conversation about core values and how you hire around them, how you make your decisions around them. I'm not asking you about core values. I'm asking you, why do you run your practice? That's it. Simple question, right? So there's a variety of answers you could give me. You could say, and every one of these is an answer I've heard from one of the thousands, literally thousands of doctors I've spoken to since Orthopreneurs was founded back, 8 years ago. You could say to me, I just want to make a boatload of money. You could say to me, the purpose of my practice is because I want to get out of the house, right? I know orthodontists who are moms and dads who say, I've got small kids at home. It keeps me sane to go to the office and work. You could say a whole variety of reasons out there why you practice. But the most common one I hear, right, is the same reason I told my kids from the time they could understand English, right? I still remember this like it was yesterday. My twins, who are now 21 years old, are my younger kids. When they were probably about 2 to 3, maybe a little bit older, I remember them sitting in their high chairs. As I head off to work in the morning, I would, give them a kiss, give them a hug, hug my older daughter. And then I would say to my kids who were sitting around the table as I headed to work, why does dad go to work? I wanted them to understand the why. Why does dad go to work? Why is dad not home all day long playing with them? Which would have driven me crazy to be home. God bless stay-at-home moms. God bless you. That's all I'm going to say. But why does dad go to work? And it was funny because they raised their spoons covered in yams or avocado or whatever it was. And I remember all three of them would go, to make money. And that's what I taught my children. We go to work to make money. We can have work. And in the years that passed, they learned that you can have a job that can be fulfilling. You can have a job that feels like a hobby. You can have a job where you can play a meaningful role in the community. But the reason we go to work is to make money. Now, if you have a different reason for going to work, legitimately different reason, I'd love to hear it. DM me. I'd like to learn more about why you go to work. But the whole purpose of going to work is to make money. Get ready to listen to that, okay? If your purpose to go to work is, I'm an ortho. That's why I go to work, because I'm an orthodontist. That's not a reason to go to work. That's why you went to school. The reason you go to work is because you want more customers. If anybody goes, no, I don't like treating customers. I don't like people coming into my office. I like treating one person a day, right? Obviously, it's a joke. But why do you do what you do? Now, you do it to make money. That's work. That's why you took out the loans. That's why you built the practice or took over the practice. That's why you face all the challenges you face on a regular basis, because it's worth the money, or maybe it isn't, that you're making. So never forget that. Never forget that, because making more money is not an evil thing. You're not ripping people off. You're not doing mail order where you have an ad for widgets that'll change people's lives. Then when they sign up and get the widget and it's broken, you say, they're ready to return it for their free money back guarantee, but they have to pay, postage to send it back to you, right? And you're trying to rip them off hoping that they don't send it back. That's not what you're doing. You've heard me say this many times. You're transactional. People pay you to fix a smile, and you fix it for them to the best of your ability, hopefully. That's why you work, to make money. So then let's take a pivot here on this question. Because if the goal of working is to make money, many of you are not taking that very seriously. You show up, you don't really kill yourself, you know you could do more, and you want to make more money, but I got to get home. I don't want to stay late. I don't want to think about it on the weekends. I got plans to go to the beach. Right? What are you willing to do to make more money, right? And you might say, look, I'm not going to work any harder. Well, then good. Then hopefully you're happy with the money you're making, right? If you're not willing to invest the time, energy, and effort, if you don't want to go to ortho residency because you don't want to put the time in, you don't become an orthodontist. If you're an orthodontist and you don't want to put the time in to build your practice, then you get what you got, right? Don't complain to me you don't have a $3 million practice. I can't give you numbers because I don't want to air them out publicly. I'll just tell you, my partner and I started a practice, a de novo, 1 day a week in the last year. And at the end of the year, if you want a $3 million practice, we basically got to that number. We got to half that number, give or take, in our first 12 months of being open. Now, for some of you go, oh my God, I've been stuck at 1.4, 1.5, 1.7 million for the last 5 years. Well, I'm just telling you, there's ways to overcome that. Are you putting in the time, energy, and effort, or are you going to complain to me that you don't have a $3 million practice because I have all these reasons why I don't have it? So at the end of the day, the other point I want to make related to the money aspect is, number one, are you putting in the time, energy, and effort that you need to get the practice you want to have? If you want to have a $1.3 million practice and that's what you've got and you're happy with it, then good for you. Don't complain, right? You're not complaining. You're happy. But if you're complaining, are you really working smart? If we can do what we did on 1 day a week in the first 12 months, I mean, come on, you can do better if you put the time, energy, and effort into it. But are you? And the second part I want to throw out there is the part that I joke about with my friends who are not orthodontists. If I came to you and said, I sell widgets, right? I make, a hair product. I make a special scrunchie. It's a revolutionary scrunchie for the hair. And I've built it to $4 million in, let's make it easier. I built it to $2 million a year in annual recurring revenue, ARR, right? And I've been approached by L'Oreal, right? Big hair company. They've reached out to me and said, we'll pay you $10 million or $12 million, whatever the number is, for that company. That's what people in business do. They work to make money. And they build these companies and then they sell them. And they stay on for a while afterwards. But sometimes, I know somebody sold a $40 million company. I know somebody else who sold a $45 million company. I know somebody who sold a $600 million company. People start companies to build them and eventually sell them. So then why are orthodontists the only people I've ever met, right? I speak to dentists, I speak to oral surgeons, I speak to a lot of people. Why are orthodontists the only people I know who build a company, get approached to be offered 10, 15, 20 million dollars, and then say, I don't know, I think I'm just going to keep working? Every person on earth outside of ortho that I know who builds companies, notwithstanding very specific situations, I know people who've partnered with companies, haven't sold out, but partnered to use them for a whole series of other reasons, for infrastructure reasons. But if you're an orthodontist and you've built a $3 million practice or a $4 million practice or a $7 million or $8 million or $9 million practice, and you have the opportunity to exit with $15, $20, $25 million, and I've seen these offers, why are you not taking it? What are you hoping to accomplish? Well, I feel like I'll be constrained. You're not going to be constrained. I practice the way I want to work. Why would you turn down offers of more than $10 million, right? Let's assume whatever size practice you have, you're going to be given 6 to 7 after-tax implications because you're paying 20% capital gains on the money you're being given versus marginal tax rate on your income from your practice, generally speaking. Why would you turn down 7 to 8 times annual income, after-tax income, to be paid up front while making money along the way and having equity grow and the ability to go start all over again later if you want to? Why would you turn that down for any reason? I just don't understand it. Granted, there's things that you contrive and you come up with. I recently just had an argument with somebody where 58% per year return on equity wasn't good enough, right? There was other reasons why that wasn't good, right? A 2.5x return in 2 years is 58% per year. I think it may be even more than that. But point being, people build companies and then exit. And they work in the companies, but they build them to sell them. Why would you turn down a 10, 12, 15, 20 million, whatever your size practice is, you're going to get 6 to 8 years of after-tax income right now. And you're going to sit there and tell me that it makes financial sense for you not to do it, right? When the numbers every single time work out in that favor. I'm not telling you to join Smile Doctors like I did. I'm telling you, there's a variety of good companies out there, not that many. There's a few that you could join. I think it would be relatively safe for you, okay? So let's not use the argument, oh, Glenn's trying to talk you into Smile Doctors, Glenn's trying to talk you into private equity. I'm just saying, everybody else on earth starts companies and sells them when an 8-digit offer comes in, and they get 6 to 8 years worth of income. Sometimes it's more than that. Why do orthodontists different? Why do orthodontists go, well, I'm not so sure. Everybody who runs business does it to make money. So if you're taking home $1 million a year right now, and I said, I'm going to pay you $8 million. Let's assume your $1 million take home turns out to be $700,000. I'm just giving you a rough number, right? 30% goes to taxes and what have you. If I was willing to give you $6 million right now after taxes to put in the bank, and you get to work on your patients for as long as you want to keep doing it in the way you're doing it now, which is the way most companies work these days, while making a salary to do it, and having equity, which, by the way, your financial advisor, when they tell you count it as zero, is the biggest mistake they can possibly make out there. And I'll explain that in another 5-Minute Friday. But why would you turn down that opportunity money-wise? I want you to think about that, right? Why do you do it? This is not a hobby where you go, well, I do it for the love of what I do. No, you can love what you do, but that's not why you do it, right? You could say, well, I don't want to work for a big company. Why? If you have 100 people who say working for that company worked out well, why wouldn't you? So what I'm getting at here is, what's with orthodontists who say, I'm being given 8 years of post-tax dollars equal to what I'm taking home now. Well, I'm growing at 20% per year. Well, you know what? Your private equity that you're getting is going to grow more than 20% per year, more than likely. If you do a 2.5x turn in 5 years, that's 20.1% per year growth. So again, if you're somebody who's got a decent sized practice and you've been approached by private equity, or maybe you haven't, and you haven't decided to join, I'd love you to DM me and tell me why, right? There may be an amazing reason, but the money isn't, because the money, you always come out ahead. If you run the numbers equal to equal, and there are people out there with agendas of their own who are going to try to tell you differently. Now, be clear, I'm not telling you to join an OSO or DSO. I'm telling you to understand the reasons why you're not doing it. That's the key. I never want to be classified, which I have been anyway, as being somebody trying to talk people into joining OSOs. No. I'm into people making wise financial decisions if they're right for them. And if it's not right for you, I'd like to understand why it wasn't right for you. Okay? Because again, you're banking on the fact that your practice is potentially going to keep growing. That's a reason, right? But if it goes flat, your offer drops. Even if you're making more money, you could make the same amount of post-tax payout. If your practice isn't continuously growing at 20% and suddenly becomes flat, your offer is going to drop considerably. And now you worked an extra 2 years and the stock price has gone up considerably and you've lost maybe one full turn of multiple. So at the end of the day, I'm not telling you to join. I'm not telling you not to join. I'm telling you, if you don't do it, what's your reason? What are you hanging on for? What are you hoping for? What are you risking, right? Because it may be amazing and a great decision. It could also be one of the most disastrous decisions of your life. So anyway, reach out to me, DM me. Whether you've joined a group, haven't joined a group, whether you've never spoken to a group, but you think maybe you should, just reach out to me. Let me talk to you. If you join any number of groups, I don't get a penny. But I've had this conversation, 250 to 500 times. I stopped counting. And people will tell you, 50% of the time I say you're not ready to join. But that's not because of the money. It's because the scale, the size, potentially it's too early in their life cycle. But talk to me, DM me, let's talk about this. Because I think there's too many voices on the other side telling you never do it, don't do it. My job is just to be honest and fair and try to open up the dialogue so that nobody ever goes back like the patient you see in your practice who's 50, who says, I wish I'd known when I was 12 or 20, I wish somebody had told me this. I want to be the guy to tell you all the details now so that 30, 40 years from now, when I'm gone, I hope I'm not dead, but I'm probably not doing a podcast, that you say, you know what, I appreciate Krieger telling me that. I never chose to go, but I understood why I wasn't ready to go. And that's the whole key here. So the way you love fixing smiles is the way I love helping my peers. Wishing you a great day. Hope to see you at Orthopreneur Summit, opsummit2025.com. I don't even know if there's tickets left by the time you hear this, but if there are, it's the final one. It's going to be the best one. It's got clinical and leadership and management, and the people speaking are going to change your practice. So wishing you much love and just wishing you a great day.